Well, hey there, American farmsteaders. This is Donna with Hazelbell Farm.
And Jenny with the Gramstead Family Farm.
And we are two American farmsteaders here in Northeast Florida, where we are doing our best to grow as much of our own food as possible and encourage you to do the same.
That's right. And today we are super excited. We have an Instagram chicken influencer on as a very special guest today. We have Nikki Husted on today. She is a really popular chicken influencer on Instagram. And we're really excited to have Nikki on today because she has a really fun take on keeping chickens. So, hey, Nikki.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for having me on today.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really fun conversation and a really valuable conversation too, because I really think that there are a lot of new chicken keepers out there or people who are just looking to get into keeping chickens and really need just a good baseline of some really good information. So we were excited to learn about you because you are full of good chicken information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I try to keep it simple and, user friendly for everything that I do. Just hacks that I've learned along the way and just try to make it easy for people.
Yeah. So we also have a copy of your book. Your publisher so graciously sent us one, and we're actually going to be able to do a giveaway with your book, which we are super excited to do. So we'll give some details about that later. But your book is Chicken Keeping Pure and Simple, and it's not released yet, right?
No, it should be soon. It's just in the next few weeks it'll be ready to go.
Okay, good. So probably sometime in May.
Yeah, it's set for May 30th, but it looks like it's getting to everybody sooner. So fingers crossed for an earlier release date. But yeah, it's out for pre-order everywhere right now.
Okay, good. Then
Cool.
This is great timing.
It is good timing. Where can people go to pre-order?
Anywhere that you buy books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, anywhere, literally anywhere.
All right, cool.
All right, perfect. Well, I went through your whole entire book, and like I said, it's just full of really great stuff. So we're just going to kind of start from the beginning. And what advice do you have for people with just brand new, getting started with chickens?
I think really spending a lot of time figuring out what your purpose is for keeping chickens, what you want to get out of it, where you want to go with it, I think is important. A lot of people will see the cute fuzzy chickens at the farm supply store and just purchase them because they're cute and they're fuzzy and their kids talked them into it. And then they get them home and they realize I was not prepared for this. So I think spending time figuring that out before you jump in is the most important. And there's different reasons to keep chickens. So, are you going to just look for eggs? Are you looking for pets? Are you looking for meat? Are you looking for all of those things? Figuring out what the purpose is for your backyard chickens or your farm chickens, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and, you mentioned a very important point of, being ready when you get those chicks, before you get those chicks. That's kind of like the number one farm rule with animals. Like you always need to have your fences up.
Infrastructure first.
So that's super important with chickens too, because, especially if people are bringing home baby chicks, they're going to need to have a brooder set up, for instance.
Right.
So it's definitely not something that you can just pull off on a whim.
Right.
If you're new.
Right. So what are the basic things people would need if they want to bring home chicks?
I would say really figure out what you're going to do for a coop. Even before, are you talking about, you want to know what they need for raising baby chicks, or you want to know?
Yeah, well, a lot of people, have the idea in the back of their mind, like that would be cool, to have chickens. They've been thinking about it, playing with the idea, and then they impulse buy chicks from the Tractor Supply, because they were thinking about it and they happened to see them and, opportunity won in that situation. So they bring home chicks in a box, and what will they need to get started?
Yeah, they need somewhere for the chicks to be. So, you can't just keep your chicks in the bathroom on the floor. They need, a contained space, they get really messy really quick. So, somewhere to contain their mess. I like to keep mine in the garage because, I don't want the chicken dust in my house.
Yeah.
I use a brooder plate. So depending on the temperature here in Ohio, they end up in my house for about a week or two until they're ready to go out into the cooler temperatures of the garage or, the barn or something like that. But a brooder box is what most of us call it. And it needs to have a heat source. It needs to have food and water and, something on the bottom. I like to use like hemp bedding. There's different kind of beddings you can use, but those are the basics for having chicks at your home, but you also need to be prepared for like medical issues that may come up. You definitely don't want to not have a first aid kit and the probiotics and the electrolytes and all the things that you might need in case your chicks get sick, because they can die quickly, as you guys know, and if you're not prepared, you may just lose one or two. So
yeah, I mean, that's how animals are, like across the board. Like you got to have the necessities, because once they start going down, they go down quick.
I mean, and Jenny and I have kept chickens forever and have brooded chicks forever. And we actually had a situation last year where they were meat chicks, and they came in and it just was a bad hatch that we had gotten in the mail. And they dropped like flies, like one after the other every day. It was not one after another. It was like 5 after the next 5. It was crazy. And
it was an unusual situation.
It was an unusual situation. So even people who know what they're doing are going to lose chicks at some point. And so, I think having some things on hand is good, and expecting loss sometimes is good.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you would have in your chicken first aid kit?
Definitely some probiotics and electrolytes, some vitamins, and there's so many different brands out there. I don't want to name any brands, but you can find that stuff anywhere. Definitely some Corid. I would have some Corid on hand just in case, we got some coccidiosis going on. Depending on, how many chicks you're going to get, you might end up with one that can't stand up, and you might have to splint their legs, or it depends on how committed you are to these chickens.
Right.
And it's from a different perspective than I do, but the second the chicks come home at my house, my kids have them named. They've figured out their personalities. They're pets for us first, and not so much livestock, but depending
I think a lot of our listeners are in that boat, though. I think we have more listeners who treat their chickens as pets with names and are truly heartbroken when they lose one, as opposed to, running 50 head out in the field to, we're using them to improve our fields. We're selling eggs, we're selling meat birds, that kind of thing. So I think more people relate to your side than our side with the livestock. So we definitely want to hear more about that.
I think it's definitely a trend to have pet chickens.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a lot of people who, they see the pictures on Pinterest and on Instagram and everything looks glorious and wonderful. And then they realize they still have to clean up chicken poop. And they still deal with dead chickens and predators. And then it becomes, they were cute and fluffy, and now they're kind of a nuisance, So I think definitely making sure that this is what you want to do, because chickens can have a long lifespan if they're taken care of well. And I ended up with some chickens that somebody dumped, down the street from me. They were perfectly good laying hens. They literally lay 2 eggs a day. They're wonderful hens, but I think they were going through a molt, and maybe the people were confused about that. And they thought these chickens don't look right, and they dumped them at like an auto shop, and they were living under cars. And so my kids and I caught them with the net because I brought them home, and I was like, oh man, maybe there's something wrong with them. They're perfectly good chickens. And I was like, oh man, someone didn't do their research, I think,
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that happens, and you hear of it often. So let's jump back to the brooder setup, because you mentioned you had a brooder plate. Is that what you're using for your heat source as opposed to a heat lamp?
Yep. I don't use a heat lamp. I used to. My first eggs were hatched in 2006. So, and I've done it multiple times a year since then. So I used to use a heat lamp. That was all that there was.
Right.
I've switched to a brooder plate just because of, all the fires that I've seen and the fire hazards, and I don't want my coop or my garage burning down. And it's just, for me, it's more natural for the chicks. I feel like they learn to go outside much quicker than if they were under a heat lamp. And, people really fixate on 95 degrees the first week, 90 degrees the second week. I don't measure any temperature. My chicks go under it when they're cold, like they would a mother hen, and then they come out. My 2-week chicks will play outside in the snow. Like they just learn that, their body can regulate a little bit better. So for me, it works out much better. I don't have to worry at night, is the heat lamp attached correctly? So
it sounds like it creates a hardier chick to use the plate.
For sure. Yeah, my 4-week chicks are in the coop right now, and they are not fully feathered, and it gets down to like 35 degrees at night, and they do just fine.
Wow.
Good.
So do you have a recommendation of like how many chicks per brooder plate?
Well, they all come in different sizes, so it just depends.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah, but you can, I always say like get the bigger size than what it recommends, because usually they're sized per small little chick, but not to when they've grown. And so you can get a 10 by 10 brooder plate and it says it can fit 10 chicks. Well, yes, it can for a week or two, and then they need a big one. So I always say size up a little bit from what the company suggests is what I've seen.
Yeah. Okay. That's good advice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then food. So do you change your chicken feed from the time they are chicks and as they grow into laying hens?
Yeah. I start with starter feed. And then we move to grower, unless, some brands do it together. So you could just use the one thing, starter feed, and then move to grower feed unless the brand is combining them. And then I just do the same thing until they're 18 weeks. And then I have a rooster in my flock, and laying feed is not ideal for him. And we do want him to live a long, happy, healthy life. He's a great rooster, and I don't want him to have too much calcium. So we stick with either like a feed made for the whole flock, like an all flock feed, or a grower feed. And I always am adding chicks into my group. And then that way I don't have to switch my feed from layer feed to grower feed while those babies are being integrated into the group. So yeah,
makes sense.
I just have extra calcium sources on hand for the hens to choose from.
Okay. And so what is it that the excess calcium does to the roosters?
The excess calcium is hard on their kidneys. And, people end up with roosters who die early. Now, if your chickens are free ranging, that's going to be a big difference. They're not going to be stuck inside their coop in their run and eating that food as the only food source. That rooster is out finding all sorts of things outside, and then that ratio doesn't really matter so much.
Gotcha.
But a lot of my followers have chickens who, they're in the city, or they have neighbors and they have to leave their chickens in a coop in a run, and they don't get to go out in free range. But my chickens do. So most of the time, sometimes I leave them locked up because they do go to my neighbor's house sometimes.
I can tell you where we are. I mean, we have neighbors, but honestly, we can only see one of them in the front. That's because we share, we have adjoining fields, and we drive past their house to get to our house through our driveway. But we're all on 10 and 20 acre tracts here. And so the neighbors aren't, 50 feet away kind of thing. But we have a lot of predators. We have a lot of aerial predators. We have an eagle nest nearby, and they will come and hunt the chickens. We have a real coyote problem. And so the way we're keeping chickens right now is they have to be cooped or tractored through our fields. And then I do let them out like in afternoons if I know I'm going to be home and I can kind of come and go. But even then, sometimes I'm home or I'm even outside and go out and see an eagle pick off a chicken and, take it. And that's like I said, they're not pets at our house, at our farm here, but it is heartbreaking because it's money. And it is part of the circle of life, I suppose. So it's just part of it. So if I can't let my chickens out, which my layers, they don't come out very often, but I do bring the range to them. So pretty much daily, I bring them garden scraps, kitchen scraps, of course, but anything I can out of the woods. If we're cutting swamp weeds to limbs to, anything we cut and we bring it to them. And we've seemed to have healthy birds. I have had an issue where if they are cooped for too long, that they will get a mite infestation if it's been like, and I say like, this is like once a year. This is like once a year. And so we've had to treat for that. But other than that, I mean, and it's been a quick treat and, clean the coop. And it's a pretty big coop as well. So it doesn't get like swampy. We don't have like a real bedding issue, that kind of thing, because it's Florida sand. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hold water at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. We could get hurricanes and it doesn't hold water. So, that kind of thing. So I just want people to know, like, if you have to have cooped birds, that's okay. And that can be something to supplement their diet with, is to bring the range to them like we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting about the calcium with the roosters. I didn't know that. And like I said, I've kept chickens as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
We grew up with chickens and we've always had chickens. And I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think the research over the years changes and more things are found out and more people are keeping roosters for a longer time. I mean, I know you use your chickens for farm animals. So do your chickens live? I mean, your roosters, do you keep them around for years or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think right now I might even have like 8 roosters on my property at least. Like we've got a lot of roosters, and that's not even including the ones that are in the brooder that I'm not even sure of. So.
Right.
But they do. I mean, they hang around for a long time, and I don't mind having multiple as long as everybody gets along. So,
right.
And they all kind of have like their own little group of ladies, and they all kind of have their own little like area of the property that they hang out in, because mine are 100% free range. So, they all kind of group up and do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it works.
It does. Yeah. Mine stay for the most part, stay cooped except for a couple of hours in the afternoons, like I said. And I keep 2 roosters and, one is dominant over the other. They pick at each other every now and then. The older one just kind of keeps the younger one in its place. And, I'll tell you, the times that I've had issues with them fighting is when they're out, when they're not in the coop. And it's like they get a wild hair, we're out. Let's fight. But then, they kind of separate. They pick their favorite ladies that they kind of call with them and kind of roam the area until evening. They put themselves to bed.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, roosters are great when you got a good one. They're cool. We have a lot of hawks here too, and ours will make the call, and then all the ladies will run to where he is, and they all get under cover of something. We don't lose a lot to hawks just because they usually hang out under our trees and they don't tend to swoop down into our tree area. He's cool. He'll like put them all into the coop and then like block the door, like you aren't going to get past.
That's so cool.
Roosters are fun. They're fun to watch. I enjoy sitting on the porch watching my roosters.
Yeah, they do have personality.
Yeah. So let's talk about chicken coops. Like, in your opinion, like what are like the absolute necessities for a chicken coop?
I like to have a run attached to mine. I know if you're just going to free range your chickens and you've got good weather all year round and that's just what you want to do, that that's cool too. But I like to have a run because, like you said, we have a bald eagle living out in our woods right now too. We have hawks that fly over all the time. We have coyotes and fox. And if something gets like wind of my chickens and they start hanging around, then I do lock them up into the run. That way, the predator moves on and then, they can come out again in a week or two. So having that run with a roof over top, I always tell people, if you're going to build a coop, like plan for a roof over top your run, because then they have somewhere to be when the weather's down, when there's predators out, it's too sunny and they're hot. Like I really think the roof over the run is a necessity. And
that way they can still be out but be protected.
Right.
I think space is so important.
Is there a recommendation for like how many square feet per bird?
I think as big as you can go.
Okay.
I always tell people if you're thinking about the run itself, 10 square feet at least. I'm on the fence of maybe 12 to 15
Yeah.
square feet. I think you can never go wrong with extra space, and chicken math will get the best of everybody. And you'll think, well, how many more can I squeeze in here? Or
Right.
after a few years, your chickens don't lay as many eggs, and you want to, replace those, or you want some newbies that'll lay through the winter. So I feel like you can always use more space.
Okay.
Yeah, go big or go home, because like you said, chicken math, it gets us all. We all end up with more chickens than what we intend. And, as far as coops go, like the ones that I see like in the store that are like prefab that you can buy, like to me, they look like they're enough for one chicken.
One
Right.
chicken. I've not seen one that I've been like, yes, that's great for, it says can fit 6 chickens, can fit 10 chickens. Yes, 10 chickens can fit in there.
Yes.
They will stop laying eggs because they'll be so stressed out. They will get diseases because it's hard to keep clean, and they'll pick each other's feathers out because they'll be, crammed in there. So
Yeah.
it's better to go big and then save yourself headaches later.
Yeah. Well, and as far as I'm concerned, if it's a bigger coop, it's gonna stay cleaner, and it's gonna be easier to clean.
Right.
I think it's important to have a coop that you can actually get into and stand up in, so you can get it clean.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I saw, so in your book, your chicken coop is adorable, and you've got the little coop gallery in your book of like all the different like kind of styles of coops that you can do. And I mean, in my mind, that's really what I want all my chicken coops to look like, but they don't. No.
No. No.
We'll see the Pinterest pictures, and they.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a work from home, stay at home mom. I can spend time out there hanging cute pictures in my coop if I want to, and I put wallpaper inside my coop. And I mean, it's all really unnecessary. It really is. But for me, it's fun.
It's adorable. And one like super functional thing that I loved in your coop is underneath your roost, you built the shelf to catch all the droppings. And then you use coffee grounds in there. Like, to me, that is just genius, because I'm huge on making compost. I love to make compost.
Right.
And to have like a coffee ground catch for your chicken manure, that like blew my mind.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So you mentioned using hemp for bedding, or hemp bedding, and like the coffee ground bedding.
Yeah.
So where does one find that?
So I get my hemp bedding online. I get it from Eaton Pet and Pasture. But the coffee ground bedding, honestly, since I wrote that book, has been really hard to find.
Okay.
And that company that was doing, I've only ever found one company that does it. They are doing something in the process of like drying it out and removing the caffeine, because you don't want your chickens eating caffeine products. So, they were saying that they were removing that. I honestly, like, it's so hard to find right now. So don't get people too excited about it, because it's only sold at like one store, and that store is not carrying it very well anymore. And I've tried to reach out to the company to like, get some information, and just haven't heard. So I don't know if they're going to keep going, but I mean, I'm sure people could maybe figure out how to do it. I just didn't trust myself to know if it was, to reuse my own coffee grounds to do that.
Right.
I don't think I could get enough collected. So,
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Unfortunately.
interesting. I did find that interesting too. So what are some other bedding options then if people can't source those?
So I used to use sand in my coop. I use sand in my run. I used to use it in my coop too. I was finding it just really dusty, because it is easy to keep clean. You can sift it. You can, use some sort of.
You can treat it just like a kitty litter box kind of thing.
And as long as you have good ventilation, you can open it up and, maybe wear a mask while you're sifting it. But I was noticing, like, the chickens, like, their nostrils were getting kind of clogged sometimes, because they jump down in it and it creates dust. So I was using that for a time. Now I use hemp because it's very low dust. Pine bedding, pine shavings are okay too, as long as you're keeping it clean. It's not getting too wet or, whatever. But I guess that's true for everything though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I really want to try the hemp bedding now. I've never tried that before because, like I said, I want to make some compost. I think it would be excellent in the compost pile.
It really is, and it breaks it down like the compost super quick. So, you have to compost chicken poop a long time to get that acidity out, and it makes it go a lot quicker. So it's real light and airy, and it's great.
Yeah, that's nice because pine shavings take forever to break down in a compost pile.
Mm-hmm. And I've used peat moss before with quail because they're so tiny when they hatch, that I never thought of that in the chicken coop, but it might be pricey.
Yeah, I don't know.
It might get kind of expensive in the coop, maybe just for the brooder.
I do have to say that shelf idea is not mine. It's from that Chicken Health Handbook by Gail. Can't think of her last name, but if you go on Amazon and you type in Chicken Health Handbook, she's got that shelf idea in there, and it really does make I don't have to clean out my coop. That hemp that's on the floor, I rarely change it out, like maybe 3 times a year, and that's just for like aesthetic purposes for me. But like the shelf catches everything. They don't poop in there unless they're sleeping usually, and I just scrape it off in the morning and throw it in the compost or whatever. So. Just have to say that idea was not mine. It's from that handbook. So.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And, that's what I've kind of found like across the board with the whole entire farm. Like if you just get some good infrastructure in place and some things that really work to help things function, it really does make it a lot easier to where you're not having to spend a bunch of time in there cleaning the coop or, doing things like that. So, if you can implement those things, that's always good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Nikki, I want to ask you, because you are on the pet side of keeping chickens and we are not. I want to ask you, you talk about bonding with your chickens and a process that kind of takes in your book. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. People always ask me like, why don't my chickens want me to hold them? And I want my chickens to love me. Like, I always tell them like chickens really aren't like the loving, most of them.
They're not puppies.
You might find the rare like silky or, a rare chicken that like might like to sit on your lap and get their scratches and fall asleep on you. And you see those a lot like in videos, but that's not the majority of chickens. So I don't want people to be confused. Like my chickens aren't bonding with me and like coming and hanging out with me on the couch watching movies. Like that's just not what we do. But I don't want my chicks to be afraid of me because, I do. My kids and I like to hang out with them. They eat out of my hand. They follow me around the yard because I'm their food source. So they know if they follow me, they'll get treats. And it's just fun for us. And I don't want them to run from me and scatter and be afraid because I'm dealing with health issues and I need to be able to pick them up.
Yeah.
So our chicks, we start, even with my kids, we all do this, put food in our hand, just whatever their chick food is in our hand, put it down on the bottom of the brooder and let the chicks come eat out of my hand. That's how we start. And I try really hard not to pick them up from above because I find that, chickens, their instincts say predators are come from above. And so if your hand is always going in and just grabbing them, when they're not willing, then they learn to like dodge you. So like by week 3, you'll come to the brooder and they're all like, and they all scatter. And then, they're like, what in the world? Who is this lady who keeps grabbing at me? And so I just let them come to my hand. And usually by week 3 for me, I've got the 1 or 2 who like will climb up my arm, sit on my shoulder. They'll preen my hair. That's not every chicken, but I do find the ones, that end up doing it that way. So I always feed them out of my hand, let them crawl on my hand, let them climb my arm if they want to, and only pick them up if I actually need to for like health purposes or to move them to clean their brooder or whatever.
Right. Have you noticed any particular breed that is friendlier than others?
My Easter eggers and my Americanas are the ones that are like really quirky but love to hang out with me. I'll be cleaning the coop and my one Americana, Rosie, she'll like just jump on my shoulder. And she's, I don't know, 2 or 3 or something. And she's just like, what's up? Like, you're here. I'm going to sit on your shoulder. Where most of my chickens aren't like that. But, I don't want to give people the wrong impression. That's it's not what chickens are.
Yeah. I mean, some people are looking for that, who are looking to get into chickens. That's what they want. They have the idyllic view of, I want to put a bench in the chicken coop and hang out with my birds. that Ben's just going to get pooped on, but okay. But yeah, so they want to seek that out in the beginning to, have friendly chickens if possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious what your experience was with that. I know in the past, I think the friendliest chickens that we have had as far as hens go were Orpingtons. Our buff Orpingtons have been very, just sweet, calm natured, not flighty, tend to not run from us. I also tend to lose those first when they're free ranging, when they're in the field. I don't know if it's because they're too nice. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that's been a good bird. So if you're somebody like in the city and you're limited to just your backyard space, and maybe you have a requirement of no more than 6 hens and no roosters kind of rules, that might be something worth looking into.
I think my Orpingtons are my favorite breed. I love how they all come in, there's so many different colors, and they're just chill, calm, like you said, not flighty. They don't mind hanging around your feet, but none of mine want me to hold them. None of them are like, right. Can you carry me around the yard?
Well, I have to say that I just got the biggest kick out of your chicken, Cruella. She is adorable. She looks just like Cruella.
Yeah.
She's very sassy, that one.
It's funny. You have some really cool, really pretty pictures in your book.
Yeah.
All of your birds seem very well cared for, very, very pretty, nice, pretty feathers. What's the word I'm looking for? Not coat. I want to say coat, not a coat.
Yeah.
Yeah. They look great. Well, are there any last words that you would impart to the soon-to-be chicken owner?
No, I would say to people, there's not one way to do it. There's so many different voices out there. I just share what works for me and what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, do your research and listen to as many people, read as many things as you can, and really figure out what will work for you before jumping in.
I like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that statement more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to just do your research, figure out what works, and put in good infrastructure. Definitely be prepared before you bring them home.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed going through your book. I'm so glad that we got a copy of it. And so this will be released in just a couple of weeks in May. So if you are one of our listeners and you're sitting on the fence with chickens, I definitely recommend y'all checking out Nikki's book because literally I feel like everything is covered in it.
I agree. It's Chicken Keeping Pure and Simple by Nikki Husted. And you said could be purchased anywhere you buy books, right? On pre-order now.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Well, y'all stay tuned for a giveaway of the book, the copy that we have received. We are going to be doing that on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep.
And that'll be coming up real soon.
Yep.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Yes. Right. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It was fun getting to chat with you. And we look forward to seeing your book come out, and I hope that does well.
Yep.
Thanks. I'm going to do a deep dive into your podcast now and make sure that I get your perspective on things as well, because it's
we've talked about chickens a lot here and there, and I think we had an egg episode and that kind of thing. But
meat chickens.
Yeah, our perspective is about growing food.
Yep.
So that's where we come from.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Well, it was fun chatting with everybody, and we will be back next week. I have no idea what we're talking about.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but
but I'm sure something will happen on the farm, and we'll figure it out.
Yep. So until next time.
All right, bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.